Hey my beginner buddies, in Secrets to Speed 1, we talked about the single most important practice method for getting your playing up to speed. But today, now that you've got that, we're going to dive into the deep details. Before I get started, I want to point out that this lesson is for beginner players out there, not for guys that are already kind of into the shred game. Although there will be some fundamentals I talk about in here that maybe you'll find useful if you've got yourself stuck. You might have noticed that I break my videos into playlists, and I kind of put, you can see in the corner of the video over here, that I have a little notation of what playlist it's in. So in Secrets to Speed 1, I think I put it in the Suck Less at Guitar segment, which that and Rut Busters is kind of intended more for guys that have been playing a while and want to get into some more advanced things. But I realized that as I was doing this series that really this is more geared towards people who are just starting out, taking the first steps, haven't done any kind of real extensive lead playing, and just want to learn how to play some stuff that's more challenging and more difficult, quicker, right? Secrets of Speed.
Captain Obvious.
So with that said, let's get into the 3 steps you need to get on your journey to Shredland. Step 1 is just a basic exercise that I teach all my students to help them build finger dexterity. It's a very rare lesson for me to be teaching in that I always try to teach things that are musical and have musical applications, not just chromatics and things that are strictly about finger dexterity and don't really have any kind of application in a song that you want to listen to. But with this one exercise, I give it to people when they're first starting out on their lead journey, and the details of how you do it will expound out into everything that you play later. So let me show you the exercise. I'll put up tabs for it, and we're going to get into the details of how you're holding the pick and the way you're doing it so that you are building correctly the way that your hands work. All right, so the exercise is a simple 1-string chromatic pattern, and you're just going to play with each finger on each one of the frets. So looking at the tab, you can see it's 4, 1, 3, 1, 2, 1. Really simple. But when you're starting out, this is just building up that finger dexterity. And more importantly, as we talk about the details of how you do this, this is how you get to building the correct speed. So the entire exercise all the way through goes all the way up to the 12th fret. So you keep going all the way to the 12th fret, and then you work your way back, etc. Not very musical, as I said. But what you want to be focused on when you're doing this exercise, which is so important to getting to the point where you can play shred type parts, is A, relaxing your hand. Don't let your left hand get stiff. Don't be squeezing too hard. Don't get to the point where you feel cramped. You just want to be very loose and relaxed about it. You also perhaps want to concentrate on not taking your fingers too far away from the fretboard. You don't want to do this. Have to bring your hand all the way back. You want to stay close. As close as your hand allows you to do. That's the left hand part of it. For the right hand part of it, you're going to really learn how to hold the pick properly for speed playing here. I'm going to put the GoPro on my head here and give you an angle on the pick so you can see what I'm doing, and we'll talk about the way that the part is being picked and the angle that I'm attacking the string so you can see how speed happens more accurately and more easily when you're holding the pick correctly. Okay, so very important here when you're doing this exercise from the standpoint of the right hand is 1, don't have all this pick flopping out. It makes it very hard to play accurately. You have to swing really far. You want to get the pick just sticking out, just this tiny little point sticking out when you're playing. And also, you're not picking flat. You're actually turned on an angle, almost 45 degrees to the string, and rolling that point over it. So you want to keep this hand relaxed, but be very quick. Now, there's different methods. Some guys move their whole hand. Some guys move their whole wrist. I'm almost using just the muscles. I'm trying to be as optimal as possible. Guess I'm using my wrist a little bit there too. I'm just trying to keep it very small there. And don't swing out real far. Don't come back real far. Keep it tight. And practice this very slow and very relaxed. Until you get it to the point where it's very natural to stay in close like that. And then you'll be able to apply that as you play more leads. Okay, so now that you've seen that, What you want to do, going back to Secrets of Speed 1, is play this exercise to a metronome and build it up until you're playing at some kind of high speed. Now, one thing that's going to happen, and it's okay, you're actually going to get to the point where you can play faster with your right hand than your left hand with this, or most players do. Most of my students do. So this, you'll hit a maximum speed faster than you hit a maximum speed with. You can really get flying with that. And it's okay to get to the point where you're almost playing this like tremolo picking is what it's called, lick, where it's like, and you're just picking as fast as you can. Your left hand isn't really keeping up. And the reason I say that's okay is because there are licks that you can play as a beginner starting to shred that they sound super fast and they just involve your right hand more than your left hand, and they become a little bit easier to play. Things like that. You can even do licks with open strings, right? It's nothing crazy technique-wise, but someone who's just listening to a song, it can be pretty cool. To an advanced guitar player, that's not going to be nearly as impressive as it is to a listener. But when you're first starting out, these kind of patterns are okay. And to someone who's just a fan of music and listening, and maybe you remember before you started playing guitar, the things that impressed you are generally simpler than they are full of notes just playing all the way down a scale. And that's kind of an important thing to remember. It's okay to do like beginner shred stuff when you're just starting out. And even when you become an advanced player, I have a whole kind of speech on this in a different lesson, that who are you trying to impress? Are you trying to impress the average listener, or are you trying to impress other guitar players? If it's other guitar players, you're going to have to get really deep in the weeds and do some really crazy stuff beyond what we're talking about in this particular lesson. If you just want to kind of impress listeners and have some stuff that's easy fast, your first step is going to be enough. So that's the one string stuff. That's going to be where you learn most of your early shred just linearly. And the important thing, again, is the relaxation of the left hand and the angles of the pick. And that's going to help you as you expound out into parts that are more challenging and more interesting for other musicians rather than just listeners. Now, the next exercise is where we start getting into playing more complex stuff. And this is when you're switching strings and you're playing across scales. And the basic exercise is the 3-note per string exercise that I play across 2 strings. And this is the building block for how you play all your scales. So when you're playing 3 notes per string, I'm playing a basic G major scale here. You're going, right? Your right hand and left hand are syncing up in a way where it's down, up, down, and then the next string is up. So I break this into small pieces like I do with anything you're trying to learn that's difficult. Break it into its smallest sections. You've worked on 1 string now. Now we're going to work on 2 strings. So the whole exercise, again, is just very simply with a metronome, always just like Secrets of Speed 1. And you're going to play the down, up from the next string, down, up, down. Until you get very good at playing that cleanly and connecting from one string to the next. This is going to help you immensely as you practice your scales. And again, always staying relaxed, keeping that pick angle down. And the other thing that's important here, because as you're playing a scale, if you're playing it straight, you have to also do the exercise starting with an upstroke, because when you start the scale, it's down, up, down. The next string starts on an upstroke, up, down, up, and then the next one is a downstroke. So you have 2 different combinations. You have where you're going to the next string with an upstroke, and you have where you're going to the next string with a downstroke. So you also want to practice this in the opposite direction. And I'm going to again put on the GoPro here and show you a very important little trick that makes this so much easier. Okay, we're back to the GoPro here, and I want to show you one important aspect of this, keeping in mind everything we did with the 1 string. But now when you're doing 2 strings, when you start with a downstroke, notice that the angle is on a downward angle, so that when you get to that second string and you uppick it, nothing's in the way. It's very easy to come back. Allows you to get there and get back quicker. And when you start with the upstroke, you're going to have to turn it the other way. You're going to have to be slightly this way, because if you do it this way and you try to come back, the string gets locked in the way. If you turn it up, it becomes much easier. So as you're going through multiple strings, you're going to end up down, then up. So you're like rotating, rocking back and forth when you play fast through different scales. And there's a channel, I believe the guy's name is Troy Grady. I'll link it below. He has a whole series on this with the pick attack angle. So I'm not going to rehash something he's done amazingly well. But I just wanted to point it out here. So as a beginner, you're aware of that you just change the angles a little bit when you attack the strings. Okay, so you saw that you have to attack from different angles as you go from the starting with the downstroke to the starting with the upstroke. That said, I want to make sure that you also practice this on every string. So don't just do, I did the 4th and 3rd string there, do every combination. Do all the combos of strings, do them backwards too. And work with those with a metronome. As you get all those little pieces in place and you get used to the different thickness of the different strings as you're playing different types of riffs, it is going to help you immensely piecing together all the other different types of leads that you're playing. These are the building blocks, and when you get all the building blocks right, all the more complex stuff falls into place. All right, so the last thing in my list here is that you want to learn patterns that are repeatable. It's fine to learn your scales going all the way up. That's not really something that's portable. It's actually not as musical. It maybe connects something. You're playing a riff, you quick play a scale to another line, and that's fine. But most of what you're going to do that people are going to hear and attach themselves to that has a musical connotation to them, and stuff that you're going to be able to use in all different places, are what I call portable riffs. And by that, I mean things that techniques that you can move up and down the neck. So, for instance, this 3-string arpeggio that I play is... Now, the arpeggios are a whole separate lesson, but I'm just making a point here about that particular thing that I practiced. I can use everywhere in all kinds of different songs and all different keys. I can move it through a key if I'm playing. I've got a riff in Answer Infinity song where it's the same right-hand pattern and just a little bit of changing the left, so it's... The power there is that I only had to learn how to do this first one, and it's getting the right hand and the left hand in sync, and then just changing which fingerings on the left hand and which triads I'm playing is a lot less work. It's not a whole new exercise. It falls into place very quickly. Another thing you can think of is like very simple, again, this is like a 1-string pattern, the kind of stuff Eddie Van Halen did that made everyone crazy for what he was playing. You know, it's just... If you get that one little thing up to speed, you can do a million things with it. You know, that eruption style thing, you can do it in reverse. I'm not teaching my hands to do all these different new things, to play like 10 shred things with one thing that I learned. So you want to do lines and items that are portable that you can move to other places. And, you know, perhaps maybe I'll do a lesson on like 5 really good portable riffs that you can do. It's a little too much to put into this lesson that's already kind of lengthy. But think about that when you're learning stuff. Think about things that you can apply to multiple places. Even that exercise we were doing, you know, if I do it in reverse, as long as I know my scales on a couple of strings, I can start to apply that basic exercise. And it looks like it's a lot going on, and there's a little bit of remembering the different finger positions, but the basic mechanic of it is just that one drill. So I didn't really have to apply all kinds of new knowledge and all kinds of new neural pathways, if you will.
In the hippocampus, there are neural pathways.
So with those 3 kind of basic concepts and the important physical factors that I showed you with the other camera in mind, hopefully you have the building blocks you need to get into your first level of shred playing. Guys, if you have any questions or you want to see more detail on something, and hey, if you're getting something out of these lessons and it's leading you to writing some cool stuff of your own, share it with me. I always want to see what you're up to. So until next time, guys, keep making great music. Hey friends, don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications. It makes the whole world better.